That's
And
peak.
they were on off.
Oh my gosh.
And finally, I looked in my purse and my regular glasses were gone. I must have left them sitting somewhere. So these are my 4 years ago glasses
They
that
look
luckily I
nice.
took with me.
No,
Where in Croatia were you?
We were in Dubrovnik.
Are you streaming as well?
Nice.
Yeah.
I was out there last
It was
summer,
gorgeous,
which is like
but-
rough, but it was like the heat was, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
is it just always hot there? Or
No,
are
it
there-
isn't.
I thought they were
It's-
having a
it's-
heat
they have a
wave.
hot
Stopped
summer
streaming from years ago.
because we lived there from March through May, and it was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
And so we were kind of doing a,
Yeah.
but it was totally
Oh,
different,
yeah.
totally different way to deal with it.
Yeah.
But
And there were people who were spending all their time in the water, but
Did that stop
I-
it for both of us?
I
No.
can't do that anymore.
You're streaming
As
it.
I was-
Yeah.
My Aussie cousin's married to a Croatian, and they've spent all summer over there in Croatia. And I just keep getting pictures of their kids.
Yeah. It's so beautiful, it's really beautiful. That much time in Australia would be nice.
Oh, is this?
It's really nice. Yeah,
Oh,
it's really nice. My kids,
Yeah.
so I have
Picnic
Australian
sound.
citizenship, but because I wasn't born there, my kids get it through
Are you streaming?
consent if I spend enough time
Yes.
in
Okay, guys, we're streaming.
Oh, you ready to go?
Everybody,
Great. You ready to go?
we are streaming.
thank you, Terry.
Yes, Terry, I know that felt like a lot of pressure, but we're all good.
So important.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's get started. This public work session on the Board of Education for July 2022, 2025 is called to order. All items being discussed this evening are posted on the PPS website on the Board and Meetings tab. The meeting is being streamed live on PPS TV services and website and on Channel 28 and will be replayed throughout the next 2 weeks. Please check the district website for replay times. All right, so tonight we are starting our work session we don't want to have this conversation until we have our brand new board members all sworn in and ready to go. So basically starting the conversation for setting the tone and direction for our board work this year. One of the things that multiple studies, research has shown, best practices is that when we have a focused board that is working collaboratively, that is the most likely to lead to better student outcomes, and that's why we're here today. Before this meeting, a month or two ago, because it's been a while, I did call around and talk to each of you about what your priorities were. One of the things that I shared was that my vision as a chair is that if we can just focus on 3 things and for this year and get those 3 things done well, that is way better than focusing on 50 things and maybe doing 3 things poorly, right? And so, and I think pretty much everybody was supportive of that idea. Well, when I called around you, there were kind of 4 things that were kind of brought up and were in common with the majority of you that I talked to. So I'll just share those really quickly. One was starting the Teaching, Learning, and Enrollment Committee. So that's done. So we're good.
Done.
No, I'm just kidding. The hard work is just going to start. So, but that is established. So we did that.
What's the name of that committee?
Teaching, Learning, and Enrollment.
And enrollment.
TLE. Sounds like a
Don't call it
TVC.
TLE, no, don't call it that.
Should have changed it to learning.
Teaching, learning, enrollment, it's
and
fine. It's
enrollment
not
and
that hard to say.
teaching.
Teaching,
Let.
learning, and
Oh,
enrollment.
that would have been.
That would have been better. We better should have been smart.
Teaching, enrollment, and learning, and we can call it TEL.
There you go. It was pretty universal that what I heard from board members was there was a strong priority on student achievement outcomes and moving the needle, especially in our achievement gap. That was pretty universal, so that's really good to hear.
So would that be monitoring board goals?
Yes, and we also want to discuss like how is that going to look, right?
I have a question about that too.
Yeah, let me yeah. Thanks. And then there was also some strong sentiment about continuing the progress towards changing the culture to where schools and school staff feel like they're being supported by a central I also heard from Dr. Armstrong that that's also a big priority. That was a big priority of her 100-day plan. So that's exciting thing to talk about. And then lastly, and probably the most difficult one, is talking about school boundary and enrollment and ensuring that the way we do it is done equitably and focus on student outcomes, of course. So that's kind of the rundown of kind of when I got a chance to talk and meet with everyone individually. Today, on Board Books, you see it was posted a draft. And again, this is just a draft. It's kind of, the purpose is just to get conversation going. And then I know Dr. Armstrong will be sharing the priority areas pretty soon. But we, one of the things that, again, part of best practices is that creating a very clear work plan helps us stay focused and intentional, especially with our limited time and resources that we have. And especially with the limited and reducing resources the district has, right? But how awesome would it be if, again, my goal, I'm sure all of your goal, is that even with this declining resources and funding available to our schools in Oregon, we can still move the needle. And that is my goal, and it sounds like that's all of your goal, and that's what we're here to do. So with that said, I would like to hand this off to Superintendent Armstrong to share your priority areas, and let's start this conversation. Again, this is a work session, so we're not making decisions today. This discussion, we're starting this discussion, and this draft is something that we will be working on now and also in the future.
Yeah, so I appreciate it. Thank you. As you all know, the document that you have shows topics under a couple of different categories in which we hope to establish with you, of course, or that you establish that we can support, that we will support a work plan. So I think one of the things that would be extremely helpful for you all as a board is to hear the priority areas that I have been working with my team on for the 25-26 school year over the last couple of months. And I have a couple of things, and I call it A through E because I just like the keeping it nice and lettered. So I'm just going to read through some of those, and then at the end, I will be available to answer any questions or open up for discussion. And the order is simply by A through E, and they're all my number one. So there's 7. The first is Albina projects. And what I'm looking for with Albina projects from the team, as they know, is deep engagement and clear action. So when I say the Albina projects, I'm talking about the relocation of this building. I'm talking about Jefferson High School. I'm talking about Tubman, and I'm talking about the Center for Black Student Excellence. Those are all items that are open right now. And so as the team knows, my expectation is that we end this year having a clear timeline of the action steps and the decision points along the way, and that there is progress on all of those projects, if not complete by June 2026. The second one is boundaries, and just really thinking about the framework that we will create that really emphasizes clarity and community voice. And so we are looking forward to engaging in essential conversations about school boundaries, especially in the Jefferson cluster area with the dual enrollment, and really moving towards creating a district-wide framework that we can use to make decisions along the way. The second B, just because B is such a wonderful letter, we have a couple of Bs, is budget. We really want to be strategic in our reductions, and we want to have proactive engagement. I think you heard a little bit of that from Michelle Morrison. And so when we say strategic reductions, we don't want to just reduce in the name of reductions. We want to be clear about the work that we're doing in central office and the way that we're either phasing that out or looking for replacement practice that is a smaller investment in terms of dollars. And so we will be moving in that direction. So that's a huge priority. And then bargaining, that's a big one, right? Partnerships and preparation. You know, it will be a central effort this year, and we want to make sure that we're prepared, we're aligned, and that we clearly communicate to all stakeholders. As you can imagine, some of these conversations will merge into some themes. I'm going to move to C, which is construction. So for me, my team has heard me all year, and even more so in the last couple of months. Timeline, transparency, and tangible progress, right? We need to move, and we need to move quickly in a way that saves us money, saves our taxpayers money, and allows us to do the most amount of work as possible with the investments that we've afforded. So we want to organize the shovel ceremonies and milestone celebrations. We want our community to know that there's forward progress and not like smoke and mirrors, right? Like real progress. And we know that that's going to take cross-functional alignment among facilities, communications, and school support. And so that's a big area for the team. The D is district improvement plan. So when we think of our goals, board goals, evidence-based strategies, the data that we're looking to determine how our students are progressing and performing, that all resides within our district improvement plan. And you'll have an opportunity to hear parts of that over the course of the year. And then it ends with E, and that's excellence in service. We will continue to make sure that we're aligned across all of our departments and all of our schools about what it means to show up and serve our students, our staff, and our community. So we want to be responsive, respectful, and reliable. And so when I think of year 2 in the superintendency, and I had a chance to share this with the team a couple months ago, but when I think of year 2, those 7 areas is what will drive the work of the cabinet. So as you begin discussion about the work plan, some of those elements are on your a topic area of focus. And I just wanted to make sure that I lift up the work that we're talking about every day. So what questions do you have for me, if any?
Well, when I talked about the bonds today from the audit committee, where does that work fit into your plan? Into construction more? Or?
Yeah, the construction, yes.
Transparency. And excellence in service too, yeah.
Service, construction, budget, some of it albino projects. I mean, there are some
Very interconnected.
very interconnected, but I think what I want you all to know, not only as my supervisors, but as a strong governing board, if the question is asked, is like, what is the work of the district team, right? What is the superintendent focused on? These 7 areas are the areas that I would want you to uplift.
If somebody says, what do they do all day?
Yes.
Be like, well, yeah, I like this. I really, the excellence in service is kind of a overarching, right? Culture change, organizational, like change management. I think that's excellent. Of course, I'm personally very excited about the albino projects because I live here, and they've been on the table for some time. The boundaries framework, I think I had my first dream last night all night seemed like, about boundaries. I know, it felt like it went on forever.
Usually do.
The budget, yes, bargaining. Bargaining, I would love to get some clarity on. So I've been through 3 bargaining sessions, and the last one didn't go very well. For those of you that weren't here, we had a teacher strike, and our board members were in the room, which was a little unorthodox. Because of public meeting laws, we can't be 4 of us in a room. It has to be 3. That work wasn't divided equally, and it was very confusing for. It was just confusing. It led to a longer strike, work stoppage, because our labor partners didn't know who they were bargaining with. It really confused the task somewhat. So I would hope we could get some guidance on, because the way that we showed up last time we went through bargaining was very different from the former 2 times, where the district would do the bargaining and they would come back and say, for instance, the teachers want a 7% increase, and the board would say great, or no, that's a little bit too high. So I would love some guidance on about that. Doesn't have to be tonight, but about how we plan to show up as a board in those negotiations.
Well, and I will say, I appreciate that. And what I will say for this work plan discussion is there are the committees, right? There's the work session, there's the special sessions, there's the executive session, and then there's the general board meeting. And I think my hope, which I believe is the hope of our chair, is that we are moving in a way that is informative, that's transparent, that is strategic, and that gets the results that our community is hoping and counting on
Yeah.
us to get.
Yeah, one thing I know for agenda setting meeting, there's been a couple of emails about bargaining, what that looks like for the board. So one thing I wanted to propose and make sure that all of you are okay with it. I think there's kind of two issues that we need to solve for, right? One is like, what is the legal responsibility of the board during bargaining? So to deal with that issue, I was going to propose that we have an executive session where we can, I don't know how you talk it, get trained or have opportunity to ask questions about what are the legal and executive requirements for board during bargaining. I want to make sure that you're all okay with that, because I think that would be very useful.
May I ask the question, just for I know that our minutes aren't, sorry, I know that our minutes aren't long, and I hope that what I shared was helpful. So the document that we have before you, I think our hope and understanding from your focus area and your priorities is items on here that you want to either add to, that you want to revise, or that you want to delete. And as we know, right, the focus area is a topic. It becomes a plan when we're getting into the details of it. And I know that tonight isn't meant to be able to flush them all out. But like, for instance, right, we see policies. Will there be, the revision schedule on the policy of policies? Will we have a discussion about authority? Will we look at the personnel section, the 5 series? I think that is in need of review. I think that helps us then be able to plan and really establish something that is an actual work plan that can span across the year. And so just looking across the board designated key focus area to the required actions, board goals, I would love to hear, and Chair, maybe I'm sorry if I'm stepping in your area, but what's coming up for you all, hearing what I shared, and then seeing the focus topic area.
Yeah, I see what you're trying to get at. For that first column for key focus areas, do you want feedback on, like, is that about right? I was going to ask you, do these areas, I mean, many of them align with what you mentioned.
Well, they all do.
They all do.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I wonder if it would be helpful for just to look at the required actions for our new board members to know, like, these are the things that come up that we have to do that are, whether we want to or not. The budget approval and adoption, which is a whole process and calendar, except the annual comprehensive financial report. That's a whole, it's reporting and, an update. Interdistrict transfer, like all of these things are things that come up every year and they have to be put into a calendar. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And we figured we'd do the calendar work once we understand the totality
Yes.
of the work that the board talks about tonight. And then we also have some time designated at the retreat, I think, right?
Yes. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of, division labor the expectation for today. If you need to sit on this and think about it, that was expected. So kind of know that. Required action are things that we just have to do. It's just, you can't get out. What the board designated areas is, I put in policies, boundaries, and then there's things that we just have to do, like Center for Black Student Excellence and bargaining. And then, the thing about moving the student needle, that's in the monitoring board goals, but, because we're a new board, we're welcome to have that discussion as well. You know, what does that look like when we're talking about trying to move the needle? Currently, we have board goals. Do they need to be revisited? You know, these are questions I have as a chair. Are you okay with the current goals, or maybe could there? I mean, I think everyone is in agreement that we want to close and eliminate this achievement gap. There might be more effective ways to do it, right? And that is worthy of a discussion. So, you know, I think this was, you know, co-drafted by a lot of people, but I try to implement what I heard from all of you somewhere in this graph. Now, the stuff below, just ignore that for now because we'll talk about that separately. But just in this chart, try to, you know, I think the team and staff, Dr. Armstrong with the staff priorities, try to integrate all that into this. So the question for you is also just, you know, what do you like? What would you like to change? Maybe some things to add or take away.
I have a couple of thoughts in looking at this. One thing for board goals, I would love us to consider like a high school graduation rate / post-secondary readiness sort of
That's just
metric.
missing. That's what we have traditionally provided,
Great.
is
Let's make sure it's there so
graduation
that
and post-secondary readiness information.
I think having it there for the future so folks know that both matter to us. I think that just, to me, both they're two together. We can have another conversation about the board goals overall. I don't have strong feelings other than making sure that I like to have both of those there, or would like to have both of those considered. I really love the framework that the superintendent just laid out. And I'm wondering if we can sort of switch that out for the key focus areas and have alignment between the board and the superintendent versus having a different set. And I feel very comfortable with this. I think everybody knows that I have got this culture of change sort of desire for us. And so excellence in service has a lot there. I wonder about adding another R that's I don't know what, but responsive, respectful, reliable, realistic, or I don't know where that could then be the key to some of the taking a closer look under the hood at different things. So there's a third R or fourth R that somebody could consider to kind of add that. I don't know. I can't think of the R yet, but I feel like that's the one thing that I feel like is missing here personally, even though I think you can find it in other places. But I really would like to consider just consistency, and I don't have any concerns at all with what was laid out today. I also love having it stated that it's not prioritized. So clearly in the document that these aren't in a priority order, I think would really help. We got an email today about concern about having school modernization projects on the bottom of the list because people, unless it says it's not in a prioritized order, people will sort of feel that vibe that it isn't a prioritized order. And I don't really have much interest in having a prioritized order. I feel like we have a lot of work to do, and I don't think that there is we might all have different priorities, but I don't know that it's helpful for us to all spend a bunch of time to figure out what's the most important to all of us collectively, because I just feel like that would take a really long time to figure out, if that makes sense. So I like the idea of having it be, I'm gonna say it's cute, like the ABCs think it's cute, and it's gimmicky in a good way. And so I feel like I think it's really great. So those are the things that come up for me. If we're just focusing on the top part of the grid, then I think that's pretty much all the comments that I have. Although I think it would be smart for us under informational to add the budget education, I'm calling it the budget education series in my head, that Michelle laid out earlier. So maybe we could pop that under informational, or figure out somewhere else to make sure that we're capturing the work that she's gonna do to help the majority of our board being new to budget. I just went through a budget process and I feel like I didn't get that, and I'm so glad she's providing it for these three and for me, because I felt pretty lost. So I think that educational series is really crucial and can be recorded here as a way to commit us to following up on her vision and her plan.
Well, it is under your V. One thing I don't see, but maybe it fits somewhere here, is teacher satisfaction and teacher responsibility. With so much these last year, for a while, so much teacher absence, so much subbing. Is there any way we can, and maybe it goes under respectful, reliable, but that seems to be a real problem. And I don't, we've talked about it, and there's no real answer. But maybe we could just do some more research, find out what would be a plus to give teachers, or
Yeah,
just not to be out so much.
yeah.
And are they really that, having such a hard time that they have to be out? Can we make it better so it's not such a hard time? Or are people being lazy? I mean, I don't want a lazy teacher. And if they are, how can you support change?
So I appreciate that, and one of the things that I'll lift up is that as I rattled off the A through E items and began work with the team this spring, we had a retreat around it in June as we prepare for the launch. Many of these items that I listed are a work in progress, so it's still in the formation development stage. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to share with you is that when we come before you with reports or information items, or we're on work session, you're going to hear updates on these items and how we're progressing. These are the things that, I want you all to hold me accountable for. It's like, hey, I heard, Albina projects, there's going to be some movement and some outcomes in the construction projects. You said you were going to push timelines, and what happened? And where are we at as of January 2026, right? And I want to be able to respond favorably to the work that we're doing as a team. But that isn't meant to say that we have service completely figured out and we're executing come the fall. Some of these things are still under construction, for lack of a better term.
I appreciate that. I've been also really curious, just the media that came out around the teacher absences, but also Portland was called out when I went to the Howard Policy Institute this spring. They were like, and Portland there's about the substitutes that we cannot fill. We have some schools that are hard to fill, and the schools that we have that are hard to fill are our most vulnerable students and our blackest students and brownest students. And so it concerns me that we have these substitutes going unfilled, substitute positions going unfilled in the neediest schools. And so combined with we've tried to pay people to show up in these schools, an extra, an increase. And in other words, we're agreeing that, this is a hard school to work in or whatever. But it's really a problem if we can't, fill those spots.
So what's helpful about
I'm wondering if there's something, if this is a body of work, it would be adding to it, but I also appreciate that this is laid out in a way that when we think about the evaluation side, that we can monitor. But we'll orient the new board to the monitoring process, but that this is actionable and evaluatable.
So what's important about that, Director DePass, is, and with the team here that's representing, is that in these areas that you all have lifted up as a focus area, we can fold some of those reports on, because we've actually made quite a large investment in substitutes, and that we're seeing some positive data.
Okay.
And so instead of it, becoming this one-off report or something that we will go down a spiral, how can we, hearing that from you, lets us know that that is something that we can fold into some of the reports that we bring to you, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't need to be a whole body of work. It's something that I'm concerned with personally, and maybe it ends up in the teaching and learning space in the committee. But it does seem like there's something to solve.
yes, and we want basically, right? We want the board to have the data and be able to speak to some of these things that are coming up for them and the communities that they represent.
Thank you.
I think that the substitute is a good example. I'm using this as an example. I'm not saying anything for or against it.
Okay.
But as an example, for example, if us as a board want to prioritize a substitute issue, that some of these schools are having a hard time filling a substitute issue, this is an example of a work plan. Say what the board decides is that, again, this is an example. I'm not trying to promote substitutes. This is just a
It's
complete example. We want the substitute situation to have an improvement by the end of this year. And so if us as a board, the majority of us decide that that is a priority, we will put that in the work plan. And then now it is up to superintendent to figure out how to get this done, right? And I think this is an
Yeah,
example. But
yes.
then we have to also be cautious because the more things that we prioritize, as the list gets bigger and bigger, that means the attention gets divided more and more, right? And so again, using this as an example, if substitute is a big issue, we can put that on there. But that also means that what else are we going to be taking away from in terms of attention?
Can I make a suggestion? And like first timer here, I don't know what the work plan looks like at the end and all the things, but one thing, I do the alphabet thing all the time, and it helps me remember things, and it's a great way of communicating without, it says everything's a priority when I read it that way, which I really like about it. What's missing for me, in the board designated key focus areas, it's jumping right out at me, is academic achievement. And I'm wondering if there's a way, some of the things I'm hearing us already talk about, if we were to add that are, the teacher substitution issues, chronic absenteeism, which we've all talked about a lot, like those things, can they ladder up underneath that? Maybe we're, picking a couple things this year that are solving for, where we're at. And so I think that the public is very concerned about that. So.
We actually noted that as a team when we were reviewing the work plan and was hoping that there could be that focus area on academics. You don't have to use the language I use, which is district improvement plan. So I get that that may sound like a buzzword without first unpacking it, but within the district improvement plan is attendance, is academic, board goals, all of it is under the district improvement plan.
So that would include things like
Absenteeism.
absenteeism,
Does that include,
substitutes.
we were just talking about this. Sorry, the culture surveys, what are they called?
With successful schools.
Successful schools.
Good, yes.
Is that under district improvement plan? Because that's a metric, that and catchment rate are the two metrics we talked about that I want to keep an eye on. So I just want to make sure, now that we're talking about it, it just occurred to me, we should make sure we're, those two metrics have a home. And I'm assuming the student successful schools survey, district improvement plan,
Yes.
and catchment rate.
It's probably boundaries. That's where we'll be reviewing and tracking that information. Which, yeah.
Where would contracts go? Like contract teachers? Like yes.
Non-renewal, non.
Yeah.
That's a required, it's under the, I'm sorry. It's under required actions because you're statutorily required, so it's there and it would be in the normal statutory course.
Okay.
It's down there under, right next to Center for Black Excellence. Next column over is the non-extensions, non-renewals.
Yeah,
Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm referring to I can't remember the acronym, but the people we hire from outside to help in the districts. Like, for helping with Black School Excellence. We spend an awful lot of money
Our
without.
community, our culturally specific partners.
Yeah, our partners.
So so the contracts for those are, the last time the board approved those contracts, they were for 4 years. And we are working on an annual report that would come to the board because there was interest in understanding if partners were meeting their metrics and if they were meeting their goals and how they were supporting us meeting our goals. So that's the plan at the moment.
And that's happening this.
Yes, that'll happen.
And that would probably go under excellence in service, right?
We're under informational on the work plan of when to expect, where we could put that on a calendar of when to expect that.
I like that being informational because it seems like in the last couple of years, we've spent an inordinate amount of time with this back and forth when it could just be a memo. Or it could be a live session with a presentation. And so I like that there's some things that we just need, it's just one-way communication. This is how the climate, crisis policy is going. This is what these are the metrics that we measure. This is how we're doing against those metrics. Next question. We don't have to have a whole, deep dive into this climate crisis policy. It's just an update. So I'm loving that there's just a few like informational. I'm wondering if there's other things that we just monitor that we don't dive into.
Well, if we're monitoring something, we want to know if it's working, right?
Yes,
We don't
yes.
just want to
Be updated.
update. We want to know, is this something we want to keep doing?
Would that be under informational?
It would start there, I guess. Yeah.
What I would offer is if there's agreement that the ADCs sort of works as a frame, if we understood the areas in which you had interest that aren't captured here, we could then organize everything under the ABCs. Wouldn't have to do that in this meeting. Staff could do that at the superintendent's direction.
Excellence in service, for example, could be where teacher absences gets nested, for example.
And I do want to call out that the performance audit that will be with the internal auditor, we just listed out items that is part of the audit committee, I think that was called out. So that,
Work plan.
or the work plan from the audit. So we understand that you all may have different goals, objectives, or whatever. We just wanted to pull from an existing document to list that. But what our focus has been the first 4 columns.
I love the letter framework. Virginia mentioned the D, District Improvement Plan. Might we consider D being like district academics or something?
Something
Keep
like
the D,
that. I think we need
but
to-
then not, because the improvement plan to the public is gonna be like jargon, even though it's your guiding star. But I think like we'll know that, but I think it might be just worth, I'll just like flag it for consideration, maybe talk to Candace.
Yeah.
But like from a public reading the document piece, it's kind of like a little jargon.
Like district academic plan or improvement.
Could it be academic improvement?
We could.
We add another A?
The D has to stay, or
The
supposed part.
improvement plan, I know, or it's Brexit. No, it feels like, it's internal facing, when I read it. So, and maybe there are some goals that in that bucket we need to talk about it, but I agree. I feel like, academic achievement would go, it's another A, it could go right at the top.
Yeah,
We don't, then
academic
we have this
improvement.
gap between C
Anything with
and E,
academic should start with A.
dedication to service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We can work that D and E. Yeah.
Yeah,
You combine D and E, yeah. into
that sounds like a fun
dedication.
word game.
Yeah, get creative, but I think that even though I realize it's your North Star, I think the document, if it's gonna be all of us, it'll be public facing, and so just thinking about the jargon.
I feel like where we're going, I feel like all of we've got a bucket that everything seems to ladder up under, which is really helpful
Mhm.
and shows us when it becomes manageable as well.
Mhm,
So-
absolutely.
But then, Anna, you were talking about 3
Yeah,
particular things.
that's a good segue. Not to throw a wrench into stuff, to stress test stuff, right? So one thing we want to avoid, because we have 7 board members, and the state policy says that only the board has authority, not individual board members, right? The concern, again, I'm just throwing this concern out there, and hopefully you help me problem solve. 7 board members, if all 7 board members list like 5 things that they are prioritizing on, and they're all different, that's 35 things, right? And again, this is also a question for staff and superintendent. The direction we're going with this, is it starting to feel like things are spreading thin? Or, again, this is the start of this conversation, right? Because my thing that I really want us to try to focus on is that, as a board, maybe we do need to prioritize which ones are the most important to us, and that gets the most focus. Because I am a little bit wary that as we keep adding things on there, I mean, none of the stuff that was brought up are not important. They're all super important. Like, we have to do all those stuff. But there's also things that, like, for example, what are we directing the superintendent to prioritize, right? And that list, I would be really wary and really about growing it too big. If that kind of makes sense. And again, I don't have the answer here. I'm just throwing this out there, maybe devil's advocate in style type of way. Like, how do we keep our focus? Because, we could be here all day long and list 1,000 things that we need to improve on, because we are public education and kids keep changing and things need to get better here and there where they were fine just 10 years ago. So I guess that's my question, is that, are we getting too broad? And if we are, how should we figure out how to prioritize?
And when you're talking about we, you're talking about board, because obviously the superintendent has to do more than 3 things.
Yes, exactly.
This is the work.
This is the work.
From my perspective, it's impossible to think about this year without having conversation on boundaries, on budget, on the construction bond projects, on the Albina projects, the relocation, the CBE, service, and then of course our improvement plan, which is all about academics, right? Which is why, we're all here. So I would say I appreciate the note. I think we're pretty confident. Like, I know I heard in the onboarding that, for instance, like community schools was a topic that some folks were interested in and may want to go a little bit deeper on. That fits within our conversation around academics, and I can see how, like, I don't want it to be like so exclusive that some of those things that you all are passionate about, like, you don't see it in this. Like, this is the work for the 25-26 school year, because we have some obligations that we have to meet by June. And so I don't know, I would love the team to weigh in, but I'm feeling pretty confident that there isn't any one thing that would sit outside of this, because it captures the totality of the work. But
I have one thought that I have on this, or was somebody else gonna say something?
I was just going to say, really, sorry, I just want to respond.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
This is also a living document. So, like, we can always keep, keeping that A, B, 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 C, D. We can always, like, adjust, like, yeah, community schools, this would actually serve us better, and we would do that route instead of, whatever else. I think keeping the idea that this is a living document, I think, would help. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're totally fine. Living document's great. Totally agree. One thing on my mind is, like, to me, I think, like, looking at it as a board, like, all of this, I think, again, we go back to the committees. And so if the board isn't, like, stressing on as a whole, because we know that construction, Virginia is all over. And we know that the district improvement plan is something, Rochelle and that committee, I don't know who's on what committee, so that's why I'm just saying the chairs. That Rochelle is, like, taking care of that, and that's where we're deep diving on that. So it doesn't require us to deep dive as a whole board if we are able to trust the committee process and let go a little bit of of the people that aren't on that committee, trusting that that conversation is happening and that transparency is happening and that work's happening there. But I think what we could do is, as we're doing our work plan, which is taking these big ideas, putting them on a schedule, figuring all that kind of stuff out, what committees are taking on what pieces of this? And then also from the superintendent, what do you want us to, like, lead on or lean in on or take responsibility for versus what staff will? Like, my understanding is bargaining is staff driven. I'm looking at Sharon. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see what But like, so that isn't something where we're all going to be, we want to track it. Like, it's going to be really important to us. A lot of us care really deeply. I think all of us care really deeply about teachers. And so we all care about it, want to track it, but that's not something we're like, I'm going to be doing a thing. But, like, maybe we can figure out as we do the work plan, like, okay, board, you're going to focus on insert thing as we do. So that way it's like, we're not responsible for all of this, but we have more of a, like, tracking happening in the committees on the whole thing. And then, like, certain things that are, like, our responsibility with staff support. And I'm guessing, like, boundaries, for example, I think Rochelle's doing everything. But that's going to be a huge conversation. And that's one that probably does end up with a lot of need for the board to lean in on. So I think as we go through the conversation, we could be having those discussions to try to manage our work of like, where are we gonna agree that we're gonna wanna hear updates and stuff, but we're not gonna like lean in and like be doing as much work, you know, as
Yeah.
we go through it.
It
So
always
that way it'll
helps to
feel
know-
better.
Like, I sometimes just remind myself, I'm a volunteer.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
we're not
it's
responsible
my
for everything.
time, but I'm not, yeah, it's responsible for like a body of work
Mhm.
necessarily.
Unless you take something on or choose to have, you're leading the policy committee, so you'll be doing the policy review work, like, so you'll
Yes.
have a thing, right? So we'll each have stuff that we're responsible to do. But I think that helps maybe with me, and if it doesn't feel like it's all us, it's just, we'll have certain things that we do lift out that are more us than others.
It feels like our committee work is very much the board work. And that's then brought, like, Patty today brought the audit committee and some next steps for the audit committee that don't really involve, they do involve staff, right?
Well, they involve staff that involve us figuring some stuff
Yeah.
out that help staff. I mean, obviously,
And we
we've hired staff. We've hired Kimberly to hire staff to do most of it.
right,
And
and
we're looking at it and seeing, can
And
we help?
Janice is a special, I mean, we only have 2 employees, so we don't boss everybody around. We have our internal auditor and the superintendent, and who we've entrusted both to do, you know, the work. So yeah, I don't know. I always feel like the committee work is supportive of the general work, but it's not the work of the district necessarily.
I'd love to respond to Director Split. I think if I were thinking of the list when I think of where am I hoping to lean on board members the most, it's in the Bs. So the work around boundaries, budget, bargaining, and then of course bond, which isn't a B on here, construction, but I'm gonna say B just because the Bs. Those are the ones that I think are going to kind of drive the work of the board for 25, 26. I think that's where we're gonna spend most of our time. And not to dismiss things on the academic side. I think there are items and conversations that we're gonna continue to bring before you and discuss. But really, we have a pretty big investment from our voters. We have a budget that we know we're looking at another pretty significant multi-million-dollar deficit. We have all contracts open, and yeah, that's going to be a heavy lift for this academic year.
Also,
Thank you.
yeah, I wanted to also respond too, because I think we have a proposal there, the bees, as a focus area. I think it'll take a lot of discipline, in looking at you chairs of the committees, to also have the committees focused on the work plan or the priorities. Because I think, you know, we don't, my ask, I guess, is like, we don't want it to go messy, right? Like, for example, like we have a Hydra with all the, 5 separate brains doing separate things. And the problem with that, I mean, although very interesting, I mean, well, I would love to deep dive into how the district works and all these things going on. It's also taking up staff time, right? And so when time is bogged down with a lot of meetings, that means they're less time doing the work
Actual
that
work.
actually helps the district. So if, like, do you see this as a potential to kind of keep our conversations, especially in our committees, focus on, how awesome would it be if like facilities and enrollment committee are working together on the same problem, right? Because those are separate questions. And I think that's kind of my hope. And having, especially if we have a proposal to focus on the Bs, would help with that.
Kind of a B's plus a C. but
B's plus a C, right? And so that, I think that's kind of my response to that. I think you're absolutely right. The committees is where we should have those deep discussions. But I also want to be careful, like, there's a difference between work that's going to be leading to board work, like as a whole, and work for informational purposes, right? Like, just to be clear, right? So, Yeah, I agree. But my question is, how does that sound? Again, we don't have to make any, we're not making any decisions tonight. This is
Yeah.
a really good conversation. I think
Mhm.
some really great ideas are coming
Yeah,
up.
you already said what would be most helpful to you.
Yeah.
I'm talking too much, but does anyone want to say anything?
I know, it's all quiet over here.
It's okay. I'm sure I was real quiet
also
at
9
first
p.m.
too. I'm also pretty loud, generally. We talked about focusing on the top, and I do want to say a couple things about the bottom. There were
Which-
just the
which top?
definitions of categories. So when I read this, there were a few things under here that raised some concerns for me. Mostly just places where I was kind of surprised to see board leadership taking on things that seem like it would be like either committees or the board as a whole.
Oh, that thought.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure to like put it on the record that I want to make sure we revise and discuss, because maybe other people do want to see more of the leadership having more power. I personally really trust and have so much faith in you, but I also am not really particularly interested in restructuring our board to give the leadership more power necessarily, at least without discussing it. And making sure maybe I'm in the minority and having that concern, in which case, of course, we would give board leadership more power. But I just wanted to put it out there that there's multiple things in here that give leadership more power, including, for example, the audit side. A couple of us just spent some time diving in on like the audit charter and like the other sort of pieces that dictate the audit committee work. That isn't mentioned here under performance audit, that's where we would derive the work of the audit committee. And then it says that board leadership will work with the superintendent to determine what follow-up is needed on audits. And that's a pretty big break from, I would say, the charter of the audit committee. So if we're gonna be breaking from the charter for the audit committee, I would want to have a discussion about it. We do not have to have that discussion tonight. I just want to put it out there that I'm pretty uncomfortable with several things in here that would change my understanding of how things currently work in ways that I wouldn't want to see them changed. And so-
Yeah, I know that the
I say I agree.
auditor is concerned about that.
Also, okay.
Yeah.
Is it the last line, board leadership will work with the superintendent to determine what follow-up is needed? So usually when an audit is presented, the superintendent or whoever is being audited would have a management response to the audit that says, I agree with these 5 things, these 2 things are already in progress. So I don't know, like, the board leadership will work with the superintendent. The district would already come up with a response. It doesn't really have much to
But why would the audit committee be cut out of it? And it would just be between.
Oh, I
you
see,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, it should go to the
So, I mean,
committee.
I agree with everything you said.
Yeah,
As the board chair, I agree with you. There's
it should go to the.
I think it was
A lot
maybe
of-
accidental.
a lot of this language that's in this part was taken from both our Oregon policy, our board policy, our PPS policy, and also our only past board protocols,
The protocols.
which were passed in 2022. So this is kind of derived from all those. Not necessarily. This is one of the things. So one of the reasons we're going to be talking at the retreat on August 19th is this, because I don't think our board protocols are as efficient and effective as they could be, and I think a lot of our discussion during the retreat will be that, because again, I see my role as a chair as facilitating the priorities of the board, and that's it. And so, yeah, whatever parts of this are uncomfortable, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's change it, because I don't think we're prepared to talk about that tonight, because I don't think we shared the board protocols and things like that. But we should share the board protocols before our.
It just
August
seems
19th
this is
meeting.
fairly high level
Yeah.
about the audit.
Yeah, I think it's probably just like summarizing in a way that.
Yeah, that's not quite as clear about what the,
For what it's worth, I do agree with you. And, that this is all new to me, but, items like, board leadership will work with superintendent to determine the appropriate level of board engagement needed for each required action. To me, that kind of feels like a layer being put in between me and and staff, and I'm not saying that that's the intent at all. But as we work through this, if we can maybe adjust the language it's comfortable with, that would be,
We'll definitely have time at our retreat to talk
Okay.
Yeah.
about how we show up.
that sounds great.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
all
it-
of us will be able to contribute to the
Right.
conversation.
And there's also at the retreat, I think there's going to be some also data and expertise shown about like best practices, about like how effective boards function and their setups that they use. But like I said, one of the big reasons for the retreat is also to relook at the board protocols and update it, because it is a limiting.
Yeah, this is just something to work from. right?
Yes, yeah, so this is a draft, none of this is,
I just wanted to not say it and then have everybody be like, well, you didn't even say anything. Yeah.
No.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, so for monitor board goals, maybe I'm wrong, but this doesn't feel like the board goals. Like, aren't these like on the wall when you walk in? So like third grade reading, fifth grade math, I'm not feeling like maybe these are in the right spot.
Right, so what I would say is, again, if you agreed with the ABCs, we would put the board goal monitoring under district academic improvement.
Perfect. That's what I was thinking too.
Great minds.
And then from that, we'll figure out what.
Are you gonna be
Really,
sending?
Todd, what you're saying, what the board goals are. Maybe once we have that, our alphabet framework figured out. Which everyone's gonna have a lot of fun with.
Probably the board goals are to support
Board
all of
goal-
this,
Yeah.
but the question is how.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah, how
I
do
mean-
we support it without being scattered?
You could
Oh.
read into like boundaries is
Mhm.
working towards board goals,
Yeah.
because we're trying to make sure that our, especially
That
schools are
offerings
serving our highest needs kids have the same offerings as every other school or more.
So like the monitor board goals, the goals didn't quite feel like board goals, like it just says, third grade reading, fifth grade math, but I think what you're saying is like, well, just.
Oh, do you mean the goal language? Are you looking for the exact goal language? Because these are the goal areas, third grade reading, fifth grade math, eighth grade readiness.
Board goals.
Those were adopted.
Yes,
board
those were
goals.
adopted board goals.
Okay. Are we reviewing it?
It is up to the board, because as again, these board goals are, I forgot when
That's
they're
what you
set.
call, they're
2019.
actually called board goals for our students.
Board
Yes.
Are
goals
you
first.
thinking, Director DeFord, about board goals for the board?
Yes,
Okay, now I'm
Okay.
following.
okay.
Okay, oh, is it?
These are board goals for students.
For our students, yes.
So these were 2019, and there was a whole community engagement process in 2018 that I wasn't part of. But listening
So
sessions all
knowing
over
that,
the
That
district.
makes sense. to
Roseanne
me.
was here,
But
Yeah, and I
Oh,
can
makes sense.
share with you the detailed board goals that right now.
and so this is what, as a board, we monitor. This is the way that, as a board, we decided to monitor academic process against the goals. So we were monitoring third grade reading, fifth grade math, and then high school readiness, I believe, or high school
Eighth grade
graduation.
readiness, same.
Eighth grade readiness. And that's what we decided as a board would be, like, tell us where whether how we're doing and whether we're doing it. We've had lots of conversations about, are we looking at percentage growth? Are we looking at proficiency? You know, if you grow 2% or 10% in a score overall as a district, but you still have kids that aren't proficient.
Right.
So anyway, we've had
And also.
So
many,
yeah,
many
knowing
late
that,
nights
I think
talking
it's
about this.
More important than anything else, our ABCs that we're calling out academic achievement, because of our
I
goals are
agree.
directly tied to that, let's.
And we should like review and revisit that, because I mean, 6 of
Yes.
7 board members weren't here when the
Yeah.
board goals were passed.
I've actually recently heard from a community member who's like, I hope you guys look at those goals again. So,
But that's, how can you argue with those goals?
There are the thermometers that, those are the temperature checks that almost all districts look at. Our kids
Okay.
going from learning to read to reading to learn in eighth grade and third grade. Are they fifth grade math sometimes shows up as on track for Algebra 1. You
okay,
have to leave elementary school with those skills to really get to Algebra 1 in middle school.
okay,
High schools consistently say wherever I've been, students are coming to us underprepared, and so that's why we thought about eighth grade readiness, right? Am I at the end of eighth grade proficient in reading and math,
Yeah.
so I can be more successful in high school? And then, of course, we know we're held to standards around graduation rate, and post-secondary readiness is a very important topic to our community.
I appreciate that, thank you. I mean, I trust, you've done this, you have a PhD in how to do this, and so, you know,
I mean,
I mean, you know worlds more than I do, and so if those are the standard things that are measured, then
and it's
I
an
love
extension.
revisiting it though as a group, and especially with Dr. Armstrong who's here now. You weren't here when we did that, really talking about like what it means, what we're doing, like high school graduation rates. For me, I'd rather see something like, college readiness and college and career readiness there.
Yeah, that's the post-secondary
yeah.
readiness that should be
Post-secondary,
there, but
yes.
it's not listed.
Okay, there you go.
I mean,
I
to-
just sent you the
I think we're all.
You could look at it.
yes.
And
Just
don't
so-
they also include closing the gap in the board
Yeah.
goal?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's what it's all focused.
Thank you.
So I mean, to piggyback on that, I guess, and also thanks, Dr. Adams, for adding, because I guess the question is, when talking with all of you, I think there's unanimous support for the spirit and the goal, the board goals. I think the question is now like, it's been 6 years. Have there been identified more effective or ways to do it, or it may need an update, right? So I guess that would be kind of the main reason to revisit it, but I think it is still a good idea to kind of review it as a board and understand what they mean. Because that was adopted in 2019, and that centers
lots
our work.
changed. We had a
And I feel
pandemic.
like as benchmarks, these four are pretty solid, so then my question is about the how.
Yeah.
Our lately, within the last year, our academic achievement updates have been in a format of what, so what, now what. So we share the data, we talk about the implications that we're seeing in the data, and then how we're addressing it through the academic program. There's usually a presentation that myself, Dr. Cardona, the chief of schools, and Christina Howard, who isn't here tonight, would give together.
And we're excited to give the report.
Spoiler alert.
Am I not saying excited?
Yeah.
Look at that look. I feel like you just need to add in like a little.
You just sent me to the corner.
Did you just go to the no-no corner?
When do we get to see it?
I'm sorry?
When do we get to see what she's
Oh, the embargo.
When do
So the data is we don't have a date yet from ODE. It's usually in late September.
Oh, okay.
It's a long time from now. We're still doing data cleanup. We've taken some early peaks, but we're
Okay.
still doing data. The state is still doing data cleanup and processing.
But we are excited to share.
Okay. We can survive the wait.
Yeah, to be,
It's like 6 weeks away.
respect kind of time. And
Yeah.
again, asking the board as well, but also superintendent and staff. Do you feel like you have enough information now to create an updated draft? And then we will share that updated draft with the board for future feedback. And I think also after this meeting, Vice Chair DePass and I will follow up with each of you to kind of get your feedback and what needs work. Does that sound okay?
And you will send us your ABC,
Yeah, we're gonna incorporate.
We're gonna
into
clean it
this.
up a little
Yeah.
bit and send it.
yeah, that's.
Maybe have Michelle Morrison do those graphics. Those were pretty cool.
When do
Yes.
you think we could expect that?
Get it by the end of this,
Yeah.
next week, end of this week, beginning of next week.
Right.
Yeah. When do you want to look at it again as a group?
Do we have any meetings before the, what's it
Retreat?
called, retreat?
Yeah, we do. I think
Is there a meeting in
August,
August?
There's a general meeting on August 5th.
or August 5th, sorry.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do we want to keep talking about it there, or do we want to just talk about it at the retreat? Or maybe do some informational presentations?
That's the whole
Maybe
retreat.
that'll be a question when we follow up with each of you, and then we'll plan our agenda accordingly. Because I think,
Certainly work towards it if that is the
For the August 5th
the
meeting?
direction for
Okay.
August 5th, that, and especially if there's something that, like, if you all want to have another discussion before, if it's something you're gonna approve or vote on, or, you know, just having it in a public meeting. I mean, I think really what I would hope, and I assume that there's gonna be a way for you to share your feedback, that, you know, when you look at the items and what we talked about, that you really see that as the work of the board over this academic year, or if there's anything that is missing. We would definitely want you to highlight that.
I really like that this is so discreet and it provides a North Star. I kind of like the way that you framed it better with the ABC through E. I mean, because I've been here a long time and I've seen plans that had literally 35 things on it, and you just couldn't. The staff was so busy responding to requests that were popcorning around that the work of the district wasn't getting done. And there's a correlation between how we focus our time and what our outcomes are. So I like that this is discrete. There's a lot of work here, but it's not all over the place. It's very discrete in very discrete buckets, which I think will make us more successful than like I've experienced. Because it's not popcorn. There's not a bunch of stuff coming up. This is what we're doing this year. And it's not written in stone either, but it's like those big chunks of work, the boundaries, the budget, labor negotiations.
And when
It sounds
you
like a
all
lot.
and when you all think of your work as a board and some of those things that you're most passionate about, do you see that reflected in the list of the work of the district, at least
Yeah.
as a header?
And I'm all about the how it's done, you know, because I want to see like quality work and, you know, solid communication with our communities, things like that, that are literally like how we're doing all of the things.
Yeah.
So I'll just put it out there that like, that's why I think that last item is really important, because it kind of
Sure.
requires us to, that quality of work thing is a big concern of mine, making sure that when we're doing things, we're doing them well, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's our job in a big way, is like being there for you to come report to, so that have accountability. Just like
Right.
when I, as a state agency, have to go to the state legislature, it's like an accountability tool. It holds us to the standards, you know, it's the same kind of things.
I appreciate that, and I think that that's what the retreat is going to be about, right? Like, how do you do the work of the board, and how am I in the midst of that, and you know how we do that work together, and how you direct me, hold me accountable, and all those other pieces.
Yeah, the big question is what actually is the work of the board? To actually make that clear, instead of wanting to put our fingers in every little pot. And so, yeah, I think that's something we really want to clarify.
Yeah.
I have an idea. Everybody gets 3 sticky dots. We got this out there and you only got 3.
I remember those actually.
And
Most of them ladder over to a committee, which is nice.
most of them ladder over to a committee, but I mean, I was being facetious and also not, because I think that this is a lot of work
You just
with
having
the smaller staff. So, I mean, I think this is an iterative conversation. We'll
Yeah.
probably talk about this a lot more.
Let's iterate. Yeah.
Iterate.
Sake of time, any last questions? I want to respect people's time. It is 9:30.
How does,
It's 4 in the afternoon. in
committee
Austria.
scheduling, committee meeting scheduling work?
Maybe.
Roseanne will be in touch with you.
Okay.
Yes, and Roseanne sets up times for committee meetings. My first mistake was I just set a time.
Did you
And
get
we talked about
stolen?
it.
people could do it, and
Yeah,
I
I
learned
think
real
you're the
fast,
only,
so.
I just, because of the planning for the, this, earlier today, I just did not reach out to you just yet on that question.
We'll connect and get those on as a tomorrow.
I can say I've got mine scheduled.
Because
Not scheduled,
it's amazing work
confirmed.
to coordinate 3 different people's schedules. It's,
A nightmare.
And
It
she
is.
does it. next
And we
night.
don't-
every week.
We don't use Doodle
Yeah.
or any
We should.
polls.
I think. Well,
Right.
we got everyone's feedback when the availability is, so.
Okay,
I think with that, we call the meeting. Yeah.
great,
Go
thank
home
you.
and sleep. All right. With that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Big day for one, Stephanie.